Hello, everybody. Good day. This is Diane Fodell. Thank you for joining our Cognitive Systems Institute Speaker Series call. I'm happy to introduce Frank Stein, who is the director of IBM's Analytics Solutions Center in Washington, D.C., where he is responsible for driving strong connections between IBM and government, industry, and the academic community on applications of analytics, big data, and cognitive. Frank has spent much of his career in research and development, with the last 15 years in IBM's customer-facing units, including the Analytics Solutions Center and the Federal Innovation Solutions Center, both of which Frank helped to create. He's a well-known and award-winning speaker and author of papers and has co-authored a book on business analytics. He serves on many advisory boards, is a member of IEEE, AAAI, Informs, and has been the co-chair of the AAAI Fall Symposium track on cognitive assistance for the last 2 years. Frank holds degrees from Carnegie Mellon, Stanford, and George Washington University. Today, Frank will give us an update of the World of Watson conference held almost 2 weeks ago in Las Vegas and share the cognitive perspectives that were given there. So thank you, Frank, for being our presenter, and I'll turn the call over to you.
Okay, thank you, Diane, and welcome, everyone. I'm assuming that most of you haven't gone or didn't get to go to the World of Watson that we held in Las Vegas, as Diane said, on October 24th to 27th this year. This appears to be the largest conference dedicated to AI technology that's ever been held. It featured our clients, customers, academics, data scientists, developers, and of course, IBMers at this conference. Over 17,000 people attended this conference, so the big conference. I won't cover the entire conference, and I couldn't in the amount of time even if I wanted, but I will try to focus on some of the cognitive elements of the conference. There were also sessions there on big data and analytics, as well as IoT, and at the end of this presentation, there is a link for those who are interested in seeing more about what was presented there. Here are some of the key messages that I took away from the conference, and I'll spend a moment sort of up front to go over those, and then I'll go into some more details and discussion. Our goal is to work on what we're calling now a different AI. Rather than artificial intelligence, we've repurposed that to say augmenting intelligence. Our goal is to try to augment the intelligence of humans. So the equation is man plus machine, and what can that do? How can we extend the human expertise and capability by combining man and machine? The second big message that I took out of this was that it's really not about just the technology. It's really about building an entire ecosystem around augmenting intelligence. That is, working with the businesses, working with the technology providers, and importantly, which isn't discussed too much, working with the data providers. All of this machine learning that's going to be done, all of this natural language processing needs data to work on. So you have to link them all into an ecosystem to really get the benefits about it. And sort of a follow-on to that one is that the talks were not about the technology. It wasn't about AI. It was really about what can your organization do with this technology? What can your industry do? What business processes can be changed and improved by using this augmented intelligence capability? So the question is, whether you think about it from you being a professor inside of a university, how can you use augmented intelligence internally in your job? Or what do you teach the students as they go out into the workplace? How can they start using this augmented intelligence to help the businesses that they end up working for? Another emphasis I saw, which I think is unique to IBM, but I'm not sure, was around ownership. Whose data are we working with? Whose algorithms are we working with? Whose platform are we working with? And whose insight? Who owns the insights that come from all of those? And there's different models. The model that IBM seems to be pursuing is that it's the customer's data, it's the customer's perhaps customized algorithms, certainly the customized machine learning models, and in the end, it's the customer who ends up getting those insights. So it's the individual organization who owns all of that, as opposed to the collective society, perhaps, or 15 companies all sharing, or a cloud company that may do this as a service. And fifth is that the value isn't so much as to doing what we're doing today and just doing it cheaper or faster. And of course, there's lots of technology out there, and even e-commerce to some extent is doing things cheaper and faster that we can do other ways. But it's really about doing what we can't do today, solving the big problems such as cancer that we'll talk about later, solving problems that man alone cannot solve easily today because there's just so much data out there, and we just can't possibly take advantage of all that data. So those are the key messages that I'll try to emphasize as we go through this, and then at the end we'll have some time for some questions. A lot of the presentations at the World of Watson and a lot of the customer kind of things that I saw sort of was related to this theme of what can you do with cognitive, where would it matter for you in your business. And I've tried to break this down into several key bullet points. I'm sure I don't capture them all there, but this will give you some sort of categorization, perhaps. So the first one there is, what do you need to build a deeper bond with your customer or your client or your student, for that matter? And some of the examples that I saw were, for example, the Staples and the Hilton. The top picture there in the slide, let me move this forward here so you can see this. The top picture here you see in the slide is a picture of Pepper, the robot, who is acting as a welcoming host at Hilton, at the Hilton hotels. And so when guests have questions, rather than going to the concierge service, they'll go to Pepper and ask the questions. And Hilton has found out that a lot of people are going up to Pepper. Pepper seems to be a friendly person, or a friendly robot, and the interactions have been good. So that's one way of building a deeper bond. Staples in the U.S. is a big seller of office equipment, and they've popularized this easy button, this concept of easy. And they've now taken Watson, and they've actually put that on their website as the sort of technology behind the easy button. So rather than having to flip through their catalog to find what you're looking for, you can ask Watson and tell Watson that you need to buy some number 2 pencils or A4 paper, or a certain type of printer or something, and Watson can help you find that within the larger website that they have. So to make it easy for customers to find something. And so that's one category, is building this deeper bond by making it easier for things to do things. The second category is, where do you need to have everybody perform as top performers, as experts? And all of us know that there's better doctors and worse doctors, and even when you call up a call center to get help, like I just recently did with my UPS, sometimes you get a good person, sometimes you get a bad person. But if you're a company and wants to have everybody to perform the best they can possibly perform, then there's this advisor role that Watson or cognitive technology can take on. And a couple of examples we'll talk about later. We have a Watson Oncology Advisor that helps oncologists to be the best that they can be in terms of helping to treat cancer. And we have a new Watson Teacher Advisor, similarly. And an interesting thing that came out of this conference for me was in terms of learning. When a human makes a mistake, when I make a mistake and I learn from it, I benefit from it, but the rest of society doesn't necessarily benefit from it, unless perhaps I've written a paper about it, which of course is big in the academic world about sharing your knowledge and publishing. But for the most part in business, people don't share those kind of things. But when you have a cognitive system like our Watson Oncology Advisor, and we train it and it gets better because of feedback from the doctors, then everybody that's using that system also gets better simultaneously. So this whole concept about how do you advance society by having everybody advance based upon this learning and improving the machine learning models, I thought was an interesting takeaway. The third one there is embedded cognition. There was a number of examples at World of Watson with that. Whirlpool is a big maker of kitchen appliances and laundry equipment, and they're starting to embed Watson inside of their appliances. So their kitchen appliances actually can help you to make a recipe and can tell you the next step associated with the recipe. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Medtronic makes insulin pumps and use Watson to help figure out the patterns associated with your insulin to do well. And we'll talk about the GM example in a minute. And then another category was just around the business processes and how do you make them more cognitive. So Airbus, big maker of planes, has added Watson and cognitive capabilities to do a better job at their fleet management capabilities, to make their fleet management more efficient. And then I think the last one, which is key to those of us in the scientific community, is this whole area of discovery and research. And how do you start using this cognitive capability to discover things that are hard for humans to discover today because of all the data that's there. And they had an example there with drug discovery for Ontario Brain Institute. So, talking to people, these are some of the lessons learned, what we've learned so far. We've been on this journey around cognitive computing since the Jeopardy computer, which was 5 years ago now. So we've gone from doing a demonstration and television show to actually applying it in real life. And these are some of the lessons that we've learned so far. It's all about the data. So better data leads to better outcomes. Many customers don't have enough data, so that's been an issue. And then you need to curate the data to get a decent corpus to then work on. So the curation process has been an issue. And then you have to build an ontology around all of that. So, those steps are sort of foundational steps to get good outputs. That means that there's significant upfront work associated with building a cognitive system compared to a rules-based system or a business process system. This work takes time, it takes money, it takes lots of effort. And so it's not that this movement towards cognitive computing is going to come for free. It doesn't. There's a significant upfront period of time that you've got to devote. But the belief is that it will pay off as the systems improve over time. Because the systems aren't brittle, because the systems are constantly learning, putting in all that upfront work helps because you can keep up with that. And we're actually seeing that here. I have one project going on with customers around cybersecurity, and the problem is the field is constantly changing. The threats are constantly changing in the cyber world. So building a system up front and having it be able to ingest all the new threat information really makes sense compared to a static system. Another big push at the World of Watson was around cognitive and cloud and how they go together. What IBM has been delivering has been in a cloud. The cognitive capability exists out there in the Watson cloud. And customers may have their own instance of it, but it's all within this cloud. So they can get to it from any place in their global enterprise that they happen to be. They can also get to it from mobile devices or computers, or in the case of the embedded systems. Another key thing that seemed to come out from some of the talks was around domain adaptation. That requires domain expertise. So it's not just about the technology, as we said before, but it's also about understanding your domain. So the people working on the oncology project were really experts in oncology. People working on some weather-related applications were meteorologists. So there was this need to take the expertise that's in humans and have them be part of the team building the cognitive systems. And finally, there is this concern about user anxiety over AI. There's been some literature in the academic press about that. And so as a consequence, IBM with Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Facebook, and others have established this partnership on AI. And the idea is to actually get some focus from the academic community as well as the industry community to conduct and publish research around ethics and fairness and inclusiveness and trustworthiness. Can you trust a cognitive system? And if you can trust it, how do you convince people? I mean, how transparent is it, and what decisions it makes, so that you know whether you can trust it. So with those sort of key ideas that came out of the conference, I wanted to give you some examples of projects that were featured there. So here's the first one. Many of you know General Motors for all the cars that they make, and they have a system called OnStar, which is OnStar Go is the latest version now, which is a communications platform that they have that lets the car communicate back to their General Motors cloud. And the latest revolution in this, the turn of the crank, maybe is better, is in 2017 they're going to have 12 million cars connected into their network. And their thinking is that people today, at least in the U.S. and many other countries, I'm sure it's true, spend a lot of their lifetime in cars. The estimate here that was provided at the conference was about 37,000 hours of one's lifetime is spent in the car. And so the question is how to make that more productive rather than just sort of sitting there in traffic. Could you start doing some things? And so you see up on the top right is the example of their new device that will be part of their cars, which will give you content, applications, if you will, digital channels is what they call them, so that while you're in the car you can start doing things. And one of the problems, of course, in the car is doing things safely, not taking your hands off the wheel and so forth. And so that's where Watson can come in to help direct some of these conversations. iHeartRadio, which is a radio network in the U.S., is using Watson Personality Insights to understand the drivers or the people in the car's personality, and basing upon that, use that to decide what kind of music to leverage and what kind of on-air personalities to feature. So if I'm listening to iHeartRadio application via OnStar, I actually can get a personalized set of music as well as personalities that are supposed to match my personality and make the content more appealing to me. And then they also had other examples there, such as using Watson trade-off analytics to let me say what kind of food I'm looking for and how expensive and how close to the road and things like that. And then Watson would go out and find all the restaurants on my route and suggest where I might dine. And then the final example there is reminders such as don't forget to pick up the diapers. So I thought that was neat. 12 million users, for Watson via that service is no small feat in terms of cognitive, starting to get to the masses of people. Another big area has been cognitive health care. And there's a couple of examples there. Tiva talked about being proactive disease management. Their belief, their hope is that by monitoring the symptoms and building these inhalers that you see on the right there that actually can both monitor the patient as well as dispense medicine, that they could feed this information up to their system running in the IBM cloud, along with air pollution data and temperature data, weather data, and that they may actually be able to predict when somebody's going to get an asthma attack up to 6 hours ahead of time and tell them what to do in terms of taking extra medicine or perhaps even going to the hospital. So I thought that was great. And then the lower one there one of the issues, at least in the U.S., I suspect this is pervasive though, is trying to get new drugs through the regulatory environment. And so one of the things that companies are doing is taking existing drugs and trying to find new uses for them. And so the question is, how do you match an existing drug to all the other diseases that are out there, and how do you have a systematic way to do that so you don't waste a lot of time and money to do that? And John Kelly was quoted, last thing there, about that in 3 to 5 years, everybody, every medical professional is going to need to consult some cognitive capabilities. All right, I'll just give you a few more of these, and then we'll open up for some questions. So cognitive learning experiences, these are directly related to you. Pearson, a big publisher, has an interactive immersive learning system, and they've recently started working with Watson so that as the students use the platform, the system, they can ask questions of Watson. Watson has ingested all of the information that Pearson has, and so the student can ask a question about biology, and Watson can help answer the question. And not only that, Watson can then ask the student some questions to judge whether the student has actually learned what Watson has tried to explain, or whether the Pearson system has tried to explain. And we also announced this Watson Teacher Advisor to help teachers to do their lesson planning based upon all the material that's out there. Another big thing that we announced was this big data platform, this data platform with machine learning. It's about starting to see that there's a lot of different roles in this machine learning area, and different types of people like data scientists, data engineers, business analysts, developers, and they all need a platform where they can collaborate on building these big data systems. And IBM's built a system that supports multiple languages and is running on the Spark software. And finally, there's one on cognitive creativity. I thought this was really cool. So there was this artist who's one of these top 10 artists. I don't really know him, Alex.Kid, and he actually used Watson to help create his song, and the song is trending in the top 10 or 20 songs right now. The song's called Not Easy. You can go out there and search on that. And what he did was use Watson to analyze the last 5 years of popular culture and to get some themes. And then another piece of it was he was actually using it for doing some song analysis. Finally, Jim had mentioned this previously, something on cognitive skills and what we need in the future. Since Jim covered this previously, I won't really spend too much time on it. And with that, I'll open it up to some questions.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks for bringing us up to date on World of Watson. And I have listened to the Alex the Kid song, and it's really good. So, audience, please press *1 on your telephones to unmute your line to ask a question, or unmute your microphone if you're using audio on the computer. Any questions for Frank?
Frank, thank you very much. I posted my question in the text chat as well. What is the IBM World of Watson doing for all 7,097 living languages data sets, or all nation states' main and official languages? For example, in the educational sphere, Japanese, Chinese, Brazilian, Swedish high schools in all the country's main languages.
Well, so the question on the living languages is a good question, Scott, and I don't know the answer to that. It seems like this would be a great capability, because once you ingest all that and do the learning capability, you've then preserved it and can start using it. We do support the official languages. This isn't a U.S. only or English only thing. So we have been working over the last number of years to make it support, like you said, Japanese, Chinese. I don't know about Swedish, actually, but, German, Italian, Spanish are in there, and I think both flavors of that, and I think both flavors of both the Brazilian and the Portuguese. So, but the question about of all the living languages is something I'll have to investigate and let you know on.
Great. Thank you very much.
Anything
Any
else?
other questions?
Yeah, Frank, this is Hunter Hastings. You mentioned cognitive creativity in regards to music. Another field that has interest in that is the development of advertising to appeal to the emotions and sentiments of target audiences and developing promotional incentives that are effective. Did you see anything along those lines?
I did, and I actually had a slide that I took out, but we've got a big focus on cognitive computing for the professions, and I think the first profession that we focused on is the marketing profession, so marketing and sales, and so there was a number of things, and we do have this product on message resonance that that we've shown off before. It's actually on bluemix.net. And we have the personality insights. So in the cognitive system for marketing, they were repurposing those tools or using those tools as part to do this customized, targeted advertising capability, and that's going to be a big part of monetizing all of this for many companies, I'm sure.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Other questions for Frank?
I put out there on the last screen there the World of Watson replays are on IBM Go, so you see the link there, and also the Beats by AI, which Alex the kid used. It's one of the things that is in the blog, and then that blog also has all sorts of other things that may be of interest to some of you. If you have any questions, please contact me.
Thank you, Frank, and thanks for these links. That's very helpful. Thank you very much for stepping in to be our presenter this week and giving us a timely update on World of Watson. I was not able to attend, so I appreciate it very much, and I know the audience did too. And audience, thank you for participating, and we will see you next week. Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.